So Jamie McDonald is from the Trobe University, and Jamie will be presenting on connecting data across library systems. Jamie, I'm going to mute and I'll leave it with you to take it from here.
Thank you. Assuming everyone can see my slide from there. Okay, hi everyone. Today I'm just going to talk about some of the ways we use and combine data from different sources at La Trobe and some of the results we've seen and some of the progress we've made in that area. Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how we actually monitor and maintain our high demand collection at La Trobe. So basically what we do is we actually use our reading lists at La Trobe to determine what goes into high demand. We use Tallis reading lists, we don't use Leganto, and basically anything that is prescribed and doesn't have an E equivalent, we deem that as eligible for high demand, and depending on student numbers will determine how many we actually add. But the problem with this method was for years it was very easy to add things to high demand. Our team would look over reading lists and constantly just make the collection bigger and bigger, but we didn't have a very good deselection method. So gradually we had a very bloated collection that was often full with items that really didn't belong there. So basically the solution to that, which we sort of uncovered a few years ago, and which is probably a solution and I'm guessing a number of universities might be using, is to just combine Alma analytics data with with Tallis data from reading lists and use that as our deselection method. And the way we do that is pretty simple. We just grab the metadata management system ID, the MMS ID from Alma, and just cross-reference that with the local control number within Tallis, which also tends to be most of the time the MMS ID. So as you can see there, a standard bookmark will have the physical collection embedded in there, and we just sort of once a year we do a bulk sort of merge of the data and then figure out what it could be eligible for deselection. It's not a flawless process, but it's been working well. It's been working well thus far, and we continue to sort of refine it as we go. And I've also tinkered a little bit with putting that exact same data into Power BI to try to generate a report that could actually determine when a reading list item is deleted. It might actually pop up and tell us what high demand item can instantly be deselected from the collection. That's a work in progress, but that's something I've been working on, which is a good segue to my next slide. So I'm also going to talk about how we combine data, particularly in regard to reading lists at La Trobe. So basically, excuse me. Yeah, basically, if we were to go back in time a little while, it was 2020. Staff were all working from home for the first time. We're in the middle of lockdown, and it became one of the library's top priorities to use the reading lists to find as many print items as possible and to convert them to their digital equivalent where possible. The only problem with La Trobe was that a lot of our reading lists were in different states of usage. We didn't have a very clear way of knowing what was which list to look at and which items should be purchased. So obviously a lot of spreadsheet work became of that. And I was at the time tasked with combining once again Tallis spreadsheet data, and I also had to email somebody externally to the library because we didn't have a real obvious go-to place to find course information, to know what subjects were running which semester. It actually there had to be somebody outside that would give me that info. So yeah, basically by just combining that data, we ended up having a fairly big spreadsheet with 40 staff working on it at the same time, all at lockdown, all working from home. As you can imagine, it was a little bit chaotic. But from that, we definitely determined some overall results. We managed to target as many prescribed print items as possible. We found out how many of those could be flipped, become digital, what percentage of all subjects had print items on their reading lists, and basically how many purchases we were able to make overall. But one thing that became very apparent from that project was the need to easily access data, particularly in regard to course information more readily. We've always had a lot of trouble mapping time periods to our reading lists, because as you can see in the screenshot there, we have a lot of time periods at La Trobe, and it's not that intuitive to try to match all of these because a lot of lists are present across multiple time periods at the same time. So one of the solutions that came from this lockdown project was we actually had a Power BI report created for us that made it a lot more accessible and a lot more gave the library staff a lot more independence to run these kind of projects. So we could easily go in and download course information when necessary. And what we use, and the place we get this information is CourseLoop, which is our curriculum management system. But gradually over time, after that initial project, it became, as I said, a bit clear that there needed to be a more refined or a different way of doing things. So I started playing around with Power BI just experimentally. It sort of seemed to be the go-to platform for this sort of thing. And so what I did was I just took the same spreadsheets I had been working on, uploaded them, started using the system for the first time to see what could happen. I actually was quite happy with a lot of the results, and particularly how quickly I was able to sort of achieve the same things I did with spreadsheets, but a little bit more easily, I guess you could say. I know a lot of people probably primarily view Power BI as a visualization tool, which it is, but I sort of value it a lot to my limited understanding the way you can actually sort of configure and manage the data in the back end. I'm sure a lot of these sort of steps that I take could probably be done exclusively in Excel, but I've just found Power BI to be a lot more intuitive for some of the things I've been trying. So starting with just, very basic by just uploading spreadsheets. From there, you could learn a little bit about DAX, about how Power Query can be used in a Power BI setting, how you can form relationships between different tables, which was very important for some of the things I do, basically trying to understand the difference between a many to one relationship versus a many to many, the latter of which can cause a lot of problems. The importance of data cleaning, using slices and graphs, and just basically trial and error, like trying to replicate what you've done one way in a different system and making sure you get the same results every time. And a lot of this, just full disclosure, is just basically finding ways to match subject codes. So matching subject codes from CourseLoop with reading lists and the different variations and results that can arise from that. But so basically the system evolved. So we went from using spreadsheets, and then we actually, by consulting with some people in our analytics department at La Trobe, that ended up being replaced by CourseLoop data flows. And we also utilized the advanced MIS data. So the advanced MIS is Talis's data warehouse that we subscribe to. So it went from manually uploading data to actually having it automated. So I could achieve the same results, but instead of just wrangling all this data, it was as simple as, in most cases, as simple as just clicking the refresh button, and we had everything we needed. So some of the solutions that came from this would be being able to generate a report that instantly identifies print objects on reading lists so that our team can instantly try and find a digital equivalent. So we have a weekly print report that didn't exist. We use hierarchy information from Talis with CourseLoop, and we can actually regularly pick up on a new subject that's been added anytime during the year and determine within that week whether it requires a reading list. And that same process helps us with discontinued subjects, so we can delete subjects from our system the week we find out they're no longer needed. It also creates reporting easier when we want to add extra layers like high enrollments and international students, subjects with international students. We can also just target particular time periods and all the print items related to those time periods. And we've got a special system now for kind of keeping track of everything that we've looked at once and have determined is not available in E. we've also got, so basically the running theme is we've got a lot of ways of staying on top of our work that we didn't have previously. Another being we can keep track of digitizations that didn't get rolled over properly and have a very thorough and accurate way of rolling over our TALIS digitizations to a new year's worth of work. It's all captured in the one report. But probably what I would say is the biggest achievement from our team's perspective anyway, would be the original print to digital project, which I was talking about when we worked on in 2020. That sort of evolved into what we call the digital and free project. And last year, the team I work in were able to identify that 74% of all reading lists had all their prescribed items in E. So we found that figure at the start of the year using this reporting. And by targeting the work and by targeting the lists that still had print items, we managed to get that number up to 84%. So within a year, we increased the digital percentage by 10% in total. And we also managed to save around just over $500,000 for students. Yeah, and then further, even we've also got shortlisted. Some of this work helped us get us shortlisted for a staff award last year, and this year we won the library a TALIS. We helped win the library, I should say, a TALIS Innovation Award, a TALIS User Group Innovation Award. Yeah, but sort of moving into the future, despite all this, I would say that just my progress and the team in the library's progress is sort of in a middle stage. Like, it's still not perfect. There's still a lot of learning to do. I'm not an expert at the system by any means. And so I would say that there's definitely a need to adapt to new systems. It feels like we're kind of required to learn something new every 2 hours these days. So yeah, I can see the future might hold greater utilization of the entire Microsoft suite of products, using Power Apps and SharePoint in these processes, and finding a more centralized place to hold all data, which we currently are not doing. And also just and just generally the value of working across teams and having different people having their attention on the project. So I found it very valuable to be in liaison with people in our digital innovation team, as well as relying on the systems knowledge from my own team, and as well as knowing people external to the library in the analytics department. So if ever I felt the need to second guess what I was doing or to just cross-check things, it was so much better to just have somebody with more experience just give it the okay. And TALIS as well would explain the data. So honestly, rather than become an island, the more eyes on these type of projects, the better, is something I've learned. Yep, so just in summary, combining data using systems like Power BI has allowed us to refine and improve our workflows, and has allowed us to measure our progress in a way that we were not able to previously. Thank you. And if you've got any questions, if there's any I can't answer right now, I'm happy for you to email them to me on that email address I've put down there.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Jamie. Having a look at the chat, there are no questions as yet, so we just might give it a minute. One question for you, Jamie. There's often a lot of work around analytics and different tools and the data mashups that you put together, which is really cool. A common, I guess, thread is, how do you make this sustainable longer term? Sounds like you're the font of knowledge in that respect, but what kind of, I guess, processes are you looking to put in place to make this sustainable and to disseminate that knowledge amongst your team to allow this to continue to evolve and grow?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I'm not entirely sure. It's something, the idea is to train as many staff in the process as possible. My original thoughts were, what I've done could be improved. There must be better ways to automate things, but even if that were the case, there's always got to be somebody who understands how it was put together, because it inevitably will go wrong. So yeah, basically, I don't know if more complex solutions are the answer. More just having more people, as I said, with teamwork, having more eyes on it, and just maybe working groups are the answer.
Excellent, thank you, Jamie. We have had a duo of questions just arrive in the chat. So first is, do you manage your Power BI instance, or is it essentially managed by your analytics department? And do your users require a license to view your reports online?
I'm not sure if I can answer the first one off the top of my head in terms of what you mean by instance. I have the ability to work on the desktop app of Power BI, so my report is accessible to me, and I can make it accessible to others. I can publish it. I have those rights, and everyone else in my team who doesn't have publishing rights can view it through Microsoft Teams. So there's work to be taken from there. It's quite easy for them to just view the report without having the same rights.
Excellent, thank you, Jamie. And oh, here we are.
Thanks,
Ella has
Ella.
just responded. Sounds like it's managed by the IT department. Wonderful. Well, I think at that stage we have hit time. Jamie, thank you very much for your time today. And
No
thanks
worries.
for the questions in the chat. Thank you. I'll now pass
Thank
it
you.
back over to my team to continue.